create your own medium reversible project from start to finish so you can learn how to knit, practice basic knitting skills, learn new skills, and make a dishcloth that you can use. I've created this series of standalone videos so you can learn the ABCs of knitting, and especially reversible knitting. All you need is cotton yarn size 4 in any color you like, and a pair of 4.5mm knitting needles. A large-eyed needle will be used to work in the ends. I'll demonstrate each step clearly and slowly, so let's get started. The cast-on I've chosen for this project is a stretchy version of the basic long tail cast-on. To start, leave a 50 to 60 centimeter long tail. The basic long tail cast-on is as follows. Short end of the yarn toward you, needle under the yarn, you can hold it with your thumb or your finger. Grab the two ends of the yarn on the left hand with the thumb pointed up. Slip your left thumb and forefinger between the ends and pull them apart. Turn your left hand up and right hand and needle down to make a V with the yarn. The right needle goes up the thumb, under the first bar, over the second and third bar, picking up the third bar from the top and pulling the needle back where it came from. Release the yarn on the left thumb and reinsert it between the yarn ends and pull gently to tighten. Let's do that again. Make the V, up the thumb, pick up the third bar and out. Release the thumb, reinsert and pull it to tighten. If the long tail cast-on is new to you, then you can keep casting on in this way, 19 stitches for this swatch. If you're looking to learn something new, the stretchier version is very similar with one twist. Set up the same way, but rather than coming up under the first bar, go under both bars and pull down on the second bar from the back. Come to the front, and then pick up the third bar from the top, like the basic long tail cast-on. On the way back, dip the needle to come out from under the second bar. Release the left thumb, reinsert and pull to tighten like before. The structure is a bit different, so the tightening action is a bit different too. Here's the basic long tail cast-on again, and the stretchier long tail cast-on. Keep alternating basic with stretchy until you have 17 stitches cast on. 2 more basic cast-on stitches to make 19 for this swatch. For the full project, I suggest 31 plus 4 selvedge stitches to make 35 in total. Any odd number is fine, with the first 2 after the initial yarn on and the last 2 cast-on stitches made using the basic long tail cast-on. The first row is knit across. Set up the working yarn and tension. The simpler the better. I'm a continental knitter, so I hold my yarn like this. Try to set up your yarn consistently at first, until it feels more familiar. To get a nice selvedge, we'll slip the first stitch. Move the yarn to the front, insert the right hand needle under the yarn and into the first stitch from the right. Transfer the stitch to the right needle and move the yarn to the back of the work again. The first row is knit across. Insert the right needle into the first stitch from the left. Yarn up from the left and over the right needle. Pick the yarn out through the old stitch. Push the right needle through. Move the right needle to the right to let the old stitch drop off. Let's do that again. Needle in from the left, yarn up and over, pick out the yarn, and push the needle through and drop the old stitch off the left needle. Work each stitch the same for all the stitches. For the next row, we'll alternate knit stitches with purl stitches. Start the row the same by slipping the selvedge stitch purlwise with yarn in front and knit the next 2 stitches. To purl the next stitch, move the yarn to the front of the work. Insert the right needle into the stitch from the right under the working yarn. Now wrap the yarn around the right needle, from the front over the needle to the back. I find it helps to hold the yarn in place by pushing my left forefinger down the shaft of the right needle. Now push the yarn from the front to the back and push the needle through the new stitch. You can hold the new stitch on the right needle with your right forefinger and slide the old stitch off the left needle. Move the yarn to the back and knit the next stitch. To work another purl, move the yarn to the front, the right needle in from the right, yarn up and over the needle, push the yarn through the old stitch, push the needle through the new stitch, slide the old stitch off. Continue to alternate knit stitches and purl stitches. Knit the last 3 stitches. Looking at the stitches on the needles, you can see the V's of the knit stitches and purl bumps under the needle. The row of purl bumps further down are the reverse side of the knit stitches that we made on the other side of the fabric. When you turn the work, you can see the first row of knit stitches and the alternating knits and purls we just made. The next row is knits again, and we'll add in the selvedge first. Flip the first stitch with the right needle, pick up the working yarn and wrap it around the needle. This is a yarn over increase. Knit the next stitch. Now with the left needle, pass the yarn over the knit stitch and over the end of the right needle. The additional stitch has now been decreased. And now knit the remaining stitches. Now we've completed 3 rows. A knit row, a knit purl row worked on the other side, and another knit row on this side. I've called this 3-row stitch pattern the theta stitch. So the next row of the pattern is the first knit row. You can see that we've changed to the other side of the fabric. For the selvedge, slip the first stitch, yarn over, knit the next stitch. Then pass the yarn over the knit stitch, and knit the remaining stitches. If you're brand new to knitting, you can continue to work the fundamental theta stitch pattern for the whole project by knitting a row, which we've just done, then working the next row alternating knits and purls to the end, and then knitting another row. The reversible 3-row repeat alternates sides of the fabric. When you're happy with the length of your dishcloth, skip to this timestamp to finish off your project with a cast-off that complements the cast-on, selvedges, and stitch pattern. If you're up for the next challenge, let's change it up a bit to the Tildify stitch. For the next knit purl row, work the selvedge as before. Now, yarn over again. Knit, purl, and now pass the yarn over both stitches. Let's do that again. Yarn over, knit, purl, and pass the yarn over both stitches. You can see that the yarn over makes a collar on the 2 stitches that looks like a tilde. Continue working the row in this way. I chose the theta stitch and the Tildify stitch because the purl-looking stitches and the impact of the slip stitches creates a nice bumpy texture that's great for a dishcloth. The Tildify stitch is a distant variation of the non-reversible bamboo stitch, although the stitch pattern it creates is quite different. The theta and the Tildify stitch are 3-row repeat, so they're naturally reversible. There are lots of different types of increases and decreases, but because of the passing the stitch over nature of this stitch, there are no large yarn over holes or eyelets created. And knit the last stitch. Turn the work for the 3rd row, which is a knit across row, and don't forget to work the selvedge first. Before you turn, you can see how the tilde looks on this side. I think it looks like a small phi. Now we're back to the first row, which is a knit row. As you're working the knit stitches, practice keeping the stitches close to the ends of the needle without letting them fall off. This way you don't stretch out the stitches and you'll get more even results. For the tilde row, if you forget the yarn over before you make the knit and purl stitches, you can tink back the stitches by inserting the left needle into the old stitch just under the new stitch on the right needle, and letting the new stitch slide off the right needle, and pulling the working yarn back out. And now the knit stitch. Now I can add the missing yarn over and re-knit and re-purl. Repeat these 3 rows until about 1 centimeter from your desired length, ending on row 3. We'll replicate how we began by knitting the first row, including the passed over selvedge. Then the theta stitch row, alternating knits and purls to the last 3 stitches, this time without the tilde. We'll cast off in the 3rd row. I've chosen a stretchy cast off called the Icelandic bind off. I've changed the instructions a bit so it matches what we've done so far, but the structure is the same. Slip the first stitch as before and knit the next stitch. Using the left needle, pass the right stitch over the left stitch, like we did with the yarn overs. Now slip the next stitch knitwise with yarn and back. Pass the right stitch over the left stitch. Slide the remaining stitch from the right needle back to the left needle, tip to tip. Without removing the right needle, knit the stitch through the back loop. Let's do that again. Slip the next stitch knitwise, pass the right stitch over the left stitch, slip the stitch back to the left needle, and knit it through the back loop. Continue in this way until you have 2 stitches left. The stitch pattern, selvedge, and cast on and cast off are all stretchy and match nicely. Technically it's a 6-row repeat. You can see this with the alternating of the tilde and phi sections of the fabric. If you are interested in reversible lace, check out my playlist of reversible lace knitting stitches. And don't worry if your stitches aren't completely even and it looks a little strange. If your project works out, that's great. Then you can be happy when you use your dishcloth. If your project doesn't work out quite how you imagined, you can vent on the dishes. Also, you can make another dishcloth to practice knits and purls when the first one is worn out. If you're up for a bit of an extra challenge, you can work the Icelandic bind off in the traditional way. Knit the last 2 stitches. Cut the yarn and leave a tail, and carefully pull the end through the loop. Weave in the 2 ends, and you have a dishcloth. If you've enjoyed knitting your awesome basic creation with me, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel to find more videos on reversible stitch patterns and projects, including the other videos in this 5-part series. Each video showcases projects of various sizes and provides full instructions for a different cast-on, stitch pattern, special stitch combination, selvedge, and cast-off that all work together to make a beautiful reversible project. Feel free to leave a comment if you have questions or ideas for more awesome reversible knitting. And remember, knitting is a great way to improve your manual dexterity.